This is Magnus Booner, and this is my first YouTube video. If you've seen my blog, you know I'm about beer, food, and travel. And that's pretty much it. That's what I'm into. I like to eat and I like to drink. This morning, we're going to roast some coffee. I have some equipment here I'm going to tell you about. We're going to roast coffee in cast iron today, in a cast iron skillet. I'm doing that for a couple reasons. The first one is so you can see what's going on. And the second one is you probably got a cast iron skillet or a skillet in your house. So at that point, you don't have much of an excuse not to be roasting your own coffee. When you roast your own coffee, you get some beautiful aromatics. 24 hours after roasting till about 14 days after roasting, you are going to have some of the most epic flavor and aroma. And unless you've got a great coffee roaster down the street from your house, which here in the Northwest we're pretty lucky because I do, you're not going to get to experience that unless you roast your own coffee at home. And it's just amazing. So let's get started. This is my homemade coffee roaster. It is simply a whirly popcorn popper that has been outfitted with this Ashcroft temperature gauge, i.e. it's a thermometer. When I roast coffee with this, I place it inside of this big, thick aluminum pot. I think this was a pressure cooker that I got from Goodwill. I do that just simply to help disperse the heat. The whirly pop itself has a very thin bottom, and so I set it on this thick aluminum bottom, and then I get a nice, even, consistent heat when I roast the coffee. Let me show you this a little more. I'm just going to unclamp this and pull this out. You can see the wire stir. This is what stirs the coffee. Let's see, there we go. It'll be in this position when we're operating it. And then you can see the thermometer. I've just got a cable clamp to hold that in place, and I just drilled a hole in the lid. This is stupid simple and easy to make. This is the equipment we're going to use today. This is about a 10 or 12 inch cast iron skillet. I've got a bowl. I've got a gram scale to weigh the coffee. I'll actually weigh it in ounces. This is one of those temperature guns. This is a cool piece of equipment. I actually bought it just so I could do this video. You push the button, it gives you a laser pointer to aim it. You aim it, and it tells you the temperature of what you're working with, the surface temperature. Super handy for cooking, especially if you're cooking something like a steak. It's handy for this coffee roasting. Can be handy for beer brewing. They're just a handy thing to have. I've wanted one for a while. Then here from sweetmaries.com, we've got some green coffee beans. Got a couple pounds of a couple different varieties. This is a Ethiopian variety. Ethiopian coffees are my favorite coffees. You often get a lot of fruity notes out of them. We also have this colander. We're going to put that on top of a box fan cooling apparatus that I made. That'll be how we cool the coffee after roasting. When you roast coffee, it's very important that right after it's done roasting, that it be cooled quickly and that the temperature comes down quickly. If you don't do that, it's going to develop some flavor negative compounds that you don't want in your coffee. For more information about that, I'll recommend a book to you later that'll give you the science and hows and some history. Today we're just doing the how-to roast coffee. I like to roast my coffee 8 ounces at a time and then blend it after roasting so that if I go a little dark on one roast, a little light on the other roast, I can then blend it out. Blending is done a lot in food production. We'll call that 8 ounces. It's close enough for what we're doing. So this is the cooling apparatus setup. As you can see, we've just got a simple milk crate. On top of that we have a box fan. On top of that we have the wire mesh strainer. That'll give us good airflow to cool the coffee when it's done roasting. We've had this preheating a bit. Check the temperature here. We're just about 500, a little over. We're going to drop in the beans. Now that those are in, we're just going to stir them around, keep them from scorching. We just want to keep these moving, let them warm up, apply some heat. We'll check the thermometer, check the temperature with the thermometer as we go, and we're roasting coffee. We're looking good. We're in between about 500 and 550 is the surface temperature of the pan. The coffee itself needs to be in between 500 and 550 degrees Fahrenheit when we're doing the actual roasting. One of the things that's nice about roasting in cast iron is you're going to pull a bunch of oil out of these beans. That oil is going to carbonize a bit, and it's actually going to help season your cast iron skillet. When you do cast iron cooking, a lot of folks like to do it in what they call a seasoned skillet, and that simply means that it's got a layer of carbon, which is essentially burnt fat that's built up on it, burnt fat or oil lipids that kind of create a non-stick coating on the surface of the cast iron. And so that's kind of a byproduct of roasting in cast iron, is we'll get that carbonation and oil on there. You can see we're starting to develop a little bit of color already. You can see the surface temperature is hotter than the temperature of the beans. The beans are about 300 right now. I want to reiterate how simple this is and how easy it is that anybody could do it. I like to do it out in the garage. This is my old homebrew burner that we're on. I haven't homebrewed in forever. Just lost some beans over the side of the pan. I do this out in the garage because it's going to create a ton of smoke that you really don't want in your house. The skin or chaff is going to come off the beans, and that gets real light and flaky and makes a hell of a mess. And so we keep all that outside. You can hear this cracking a little bit. When you roast coffee, you've got a first and a second crack. Most home coffee roasters take the coffee all the way to the second crack. You can really see how this color develops as we work this over and keep it moving. Oh yeah, it's getting happy. You can see this isn't a perfect method, as we've got some beans that are already quite dark as the rest is coming along, but it gets us there, and I'm telling you, it's much better coffee than you're probably buying at the grocery store. I'm going to turn the heat down a bit. Of course, while I was doing that, I stopped stirring. We didn't want to do. This is getting real close to the color that I like. For the Ethiopian coffees, I typically like kind of a chocolate color, maybe a little darker. That's personal preference. At this point, it's all about monitoring that color. We're almost there. Get this over here. Look at all that chaff go. As you can see, this does a pretty good job of taking the temperature right out of the coffee very quickly. When I say taking the temperature out of the coffee, I mean taking the heat out of the coffee. This does a really good job of taking the heat out of the coffee very quickly. At this point, it's cool enough already, I can put my hands in it and stir it around with my fingers. This also helps me know, hey, my coffee's cool. This is about body temperature now. Alright, we are just about cool. Almost cold to the touch. It's pretty cold out today. It's about 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Like I said, we're in the Pacific Northwest. We're on the east side of Seattle. Selby, Kirkland, Redmond area. Recommended reading for coffee roasting. The first book that I got was Home Coffee Roasting here by Kenneth Davis. Gives a lot of history and a lot of how-to and some science about coffee roasting. I've had this book for a while and I have not read it cover to cover, but I've read through it quite a bit, and that's where I learned to roast coffee. The other book that I've used is Real Fresh Coffee, How to Source, Roast, Grind, and Brew the Perfect Cup. This was gifted to me by a friend, and I've been working my way through reading it. It's also a good source of information. It's by Jeremy Torres and Stephen Macatona. Hopefully I didn't butcher that too bad. These are both good books. This one's a lot of black and white, and it's solid. This one's got much better pictures and diagrams and whatnot. It's a beautiful book, and they're both great to read. So there's your recommended reading if you want to get into coffee roasting.